It's another edition of Acoustic Alternatives. This one looks a little different, doesn't it? This one is going to be first on many levels. It's the first time right after a house concert, I've grabbed an artist and said, hey, we're going to be on the podcast. Yay. It's the first time I've had somebody from out of the country. I've got somebody from Scotland with me today. And it's the first time one of my patrons, you're on Patreon, aren't you? And it's one of my patrons is hosting this house concert. And maybe this is like a bonus for him that everyone gets to use. So thank you to Stan Garfield, who is the person who actually encouraged me to be on Patreon in the first place. He's also the person that introduced me to Iona Fyfe, who is my guest today. Iona, it is so good to spend some time with you after the show.
Thanks so much for having me on.
It's my pleasure. I thoroughly enjoyed the show. I will admit in advance to all who are regular listeners and watchers of the video, I didn't have a lot of time to prepare for this. I got your CDs that I ordered in the mail like 3 days ago. I ordered them a month ago.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they're here. I didn't buy them tonight. I bought them so I could hear them before I saw you. And I didn't get a lot of time to spend with them. And then I didn't have a lot of time to throw together questions. So again, in advance, I apologize for, I hope I don't feel unprepared to you.
No, it's fine. It depends on what news sources you looked at, because this could go so many different ways.
I did look at lots of different things, and I have lots of things to ask about. But we'll tell people that you're from Aberdeenshire, Scotland. It's your home. Well, it's actually your original home. You don't live there now, right? You live in Glasgow?
Yeah, I live in a place called Springburn, which is north of Glasgow. It's an area, an SIMD area, so a Scottish Index of Multiple Deprivation area. But it's salt of the earth people, lovely, a lot of artists around there. So I've been living there for like 4 years, but I've been in Glasgow for 8 years now, which is most of my adult life since I was 17. Yeah, 17 plus 8 is...
25.
Yeah, 25.
Very good. I was looking at a map because I'm not really geographically good at these things, and I had tried to think like, okay, here I am in Michigan and this parallel. I wonder where Scotland's way up here, like parallel with Manitoba.
Oslo.
Yeah.
Like Aberdeen and Oslo are like, that's why it's so cold, right?
But for us Americans, like thinking about Canada, you've got Manitoba and Alberta, Canada. Newfoundland's a little bit on the same parallel as well, but a little bit.
St. John's.
Yes.
Yeah.
So essentially, you're that far north.
It's freezing.
Yes.
Like you can see your breath in your house in the winter.
Yes. So that's cool. Where she comes from. It's pretty far north, and it probably affects your songwriting. It probably affects a lot of who you are. You came to Michigan in August, where it's warm.
Yeah, I don't think I could deal with this in the winter.
Because you're used to being cold.
Yeah, but when people say, oh, the States, I think they think of nice, warm Californian weather and don't necessarily realize that like half the country is like cold as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
We get rather cold. We get like 3 months of nice weather and then the rest is,
Yeah, we get like 2 days and that's it. Typical Scottish summer.
Well, I would love to hear you sing one of your songs.
Okay.
What song would you like to start with? And maybe there's a quick story about it. You're thinking hard. I can see it.
I am thinking hard. I will sing a song called Bonny Udny, which I started off tonight's house concert kind of with. And it's very traditional. We have loads of songs in Aberdeenshire. 91 out of 305 of Francis James Child's ballads came from Aberdeenshire. Right, so like lots of scholars and folklorists like Alan Lomax, the first place they go when they came, well, the first place they went when they came to the British Isles was Aberdeenshire, because like Lomax met Hamish Henderson, and Hamish Henderson was very fond of Aberdeenshire as a place to go and collect songs and to go and do some field work, and brought, Kenneth Goldstein and Alan Lomax. Also, James Madison Carpenter, another American folklorist, went to Aberdeenshire. So, like, it's been combed over for years and years and years, and thought of as like a ballad heartland of the English-speaking world, because so many of the songs came from there. They also went to the Appalachian Mountains and became whole other new things of their own, and became the roots of, I guess, some country songs. Shady Grove can be traced back to some ballads, and I guess Bob Dylan's Pretty Peggy on his first album is the Bonny Lass of Fyfe from 1492 in Aberdeenshire. And the version that he got sounds very like the version that was collected in Knott County by Cecil Sharp in Kentucky. But we can see, typically where that ballad came from, and that came from Aberdeenshire. I recorded it just as like a digital download, because the last 3-4 years I've been doing songs which conceptually don't fit on an album together. Songs like In the Bleak Midwinter, translated into Scots, you know, they just don't, that doesn't fit in with Bonny Fyfe at all. So I, you know, haven't really released an album or an EP for many years. I've just been doing it digitally, and so far that's been okay. But yeah, so I'm going to sing a song called Bonny Udny, which is in a collection of folk songs that have over 3,000 songs in this collection, and it's 8 volumes, and it's called the Greg Duncan Folk Song Collection, and this is in volume 4, and it's just it's quite a beautiful melody. I really like it, but it was collected in Aberdeenshire as well.
Oh, Udny, Bonny Udny, you shine where you stand. The more I look on you, the more my heart warms. If I were in Udny, I'd think I's at home. For there I get sweethearts, for here I get none. It's near the long road, love, that I hate to gang. Nor is it the long miles that makes me think lang. But the one thing that grieves me and makes my heart sad is leaving you Udny and yon bonny lass. Well, the lads about Udny, they're all roving blades. They take great delight in the curtain o' maids. They kiss them and clap them and spend money free. Oh, all the arts in Scotland, Bonny Udny's for me. I once loved a fair maid, she said she loved me, and her parents were willing that wedded we'd be. But for all of her promises, she has forgotten me. And since she's got another, let her go, where will she? I will build my love a castle on yon piece of ground, where Lord Duke nor nobleman can ne'er pull it down. And if anyone should ask you, what is your name, you can see it is Mary, and for Udny he came. Oh, you pull the red rose and I'll pull the thyme. You drink to your love and I'll drink to mine, for my mind will not alter or gang to and fro, but I prove kind-hearted to the girl that I love. Let us drink and be merry, let us drink and gang hame. For if we bide longer, we'll get a bad name. We'll get a bad name, and we'll drink ourselves through. And the long walk so Udny, our I take gang through.
That is beautiful.
Thank you.
Iona Fyfe is my guest today on Acoustic Alternatives, and I feel like I should admit like I said, I haven't spent much time with the records. I like what I've heard, but you also have the kind of voice that could sing John Bomarito is a big jerk, and I go, that's beautiful.
Oh, I won't sing that.
No, please don't. I've actually had somebody do that, but the feeling that I get from your music, though my name is, my grandparents moved from Sicily to America, so I'm 50% Sicilian, but my mom has what I usually say is Euromut, so there's some Irish and Scottish and European background, and I think my heart is from Ireland. No offense to Scotland, but that, like the style of music you sing to me feels much like the Celtic music in my soul.
Yeah, I mean, there's such crossovers. A lot of the ballads, you've got Irish versions of them, and I think we just had like a power.
We did. Everything's still going though.
Still all working. Irish and Scottish music, they go hand in hand. There's beautiful bands like Silly Wizard, Boys of the Loch, bands that were trailblazers in Irish folk music that I listen to and I like.
Very good. That's what I'm hearing then. Let's talk about a younger you then. The you that you mentioned your parents in the concert, so I know you actually have a good relationship with them. You grew up, I think. You rolled your eyes.
No, we do.
Aberdeen, which is what it says on the map, is Aberdeenshire to you. What is the difference for somebody like me?
Okay, so they're two different municipalities. So Aberdeen City is Aberdeen City Council, and Aberdeenshire is Aberdeenshire Council. So in terms of arts funding for schools, funding for education, I guess all your other boring local council stuff, they're two different things.
Okay.
So I'm not from Aberdeen City. I'm from between Aberdeen and Inverness, effectively.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's it like growing up there? Is it a lot of rolling hills? Is it more like a city like you're in today?
Not a city. 4,000 people, 2 beautiful rivers, and some traffic lights now.
Oh, great.
Yeah, we got them. We have like an Asda, which is Walmart, effectively, but no guns. We don't have guns.
Good. Thank you. I'll come visit then.
It's amazing. You could literally go for a walk and probably see maybe no one, which is lovely. There's some little hills. One's called the Clashmich. It is rolling hills. Yeah, Aberdeenshire, from mountain to sea, there's coastline everywhere. I work a lot in Germany, and I took 2 musicians up to the Schleswig-Holstein Music Festival, which is a very prestigious kind of crossover classical music festival. And they were like, we should go to the beach. And I was like, but we have a gig. And they were like, yeah, but after the gig. And I was like, okay, cool. Turns out they're so landlocked that like the idea of visiting north, which is like near Denmark, is like a huge thing, and going to the beach is really important to them. So I guess in the States here that is true as well, but we have Lake Michigan close to us. But growing up in Aberdeenshire is amazing. It is a region of huge inequality. Like, you've got Balmoral, where the Queen lives for half the year, or the Queen did live, the King now who visits, and then you've got a lot of rural deprivation, like not being able to access some forms of healthcare, not being able to access, for example, music lessons, because you're in such a rural area and there's maybe not great public transport links to get you into the city to access those things. So there's multiple deprivation in Aberdeenshire, 100%. Like, it's not a mecca, it's not like the best and be all and end all, but like, we're working on that, right?
But it gave us you.
It also gave us Annie Lennox.
Oh my goodness.
Or maybe that's Aberdeen City. Emily Sandy, the ones like next to me.
Yeah. I've actually interviewed her. Believe it or not, I've interviewed her.
You'll find him next to me. She grew up in Aberdeenshire.
Oh my goodness.
And also Dame Evelyn Glennie, Aberdeen. She's the percussionist. She is also deaf, so she uses loads of other skills to do what she does. Loads of musicians, lots of skiers. Hannah Miley, an Olympian. She's also from Aberdeenshire. I'm sure there's a list of people on the internet, on Wikipedia.
I'll look it up later.
Yeah, it's cool.
What did you do for fun when you were a kid? Since it was so rural, there's not a lot of, like, did you go to the movies? Did you play in the yard? I mean, what did you do for fun?
Folk music.
Well,
I went to folk clubs with like
at 10? You were doing that at 10?
Yeah. So like there's an organisation called the Traditional Music and Song Association in Scotland. I've been a director of for a number of years now, but they had branches in the northeast, and they would have ballad competitions and sing-arounds and folk clubs, and I think my mum and dad would use that as kind of like a babysitting service, because they're not into folk music at all. But like, you know, I'd also do like AmDram and debating club and public speaking society in school. This sounds very posh and highbrow. It's not like that, believe me. I went to a state school called the Gordon Schools, and I was actually there a few weeks ago to be the keynote speaker at their prize giving, which was so sweet to go back to my high school. And I got to sit on like this throne with our coat of arms behind it. And it was like proper. It was founded in like the 1800s by the Duchess of Gordon in order to educate the town or the township at the time. And it's kind of like Hogwarts. Like it literally has like houses, Fraser, Satan, Badenoch and Gordon. It's got a Latin motto. It like pretends to be like a cool upper brow school, but really it's a state school. And I loved my time there. So I went to a place called the Gordon Schools, but lots of people on the internet like to conflate that with Gordonstoun, which is where Prince Philip went, right? So no, I went to a state school. I did not go to an elite private school called Gordonstoun. Let's just get that out there. But really it had amazing teachers who, you know, spent their time and their money to take us to debating club. So yeah, I got to like, I had amazing upbringing of so many like hobbies and different things I could do. And I can understand that there's a lot of boredom in the town for kids, and you know, they'll get involved in all the wrong sorts, but I had such a great, it's a perfect place to raise kids there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, obviously music was the most important because that's what you do for a living. Oh, that's another hesitation.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I jumped to a conclusion. Correct me.
It is the most important because I'm doing it for a living, yes. But I'm really interested in politics.
I noticed that. That's a little farther down in the notes.
Yeah. So it's tricky because for a number of years I found music to be extremely hard to do because I've put my flag to the mast on so many different issues, mostly Scottish independence since I was 16 years old. That flag's been to the mast to the point where you know, some people might choose not to come to my gigs over that. Some people who identify as unionists, they might not come to my gigs. They'll send me quite horrible stuff online. So unfortunately, this issue is only in Scotland. The hatred, the division, is only in Scotland. Like everywhere else kind of understands the situation. Like I remember immediately after Brexit, I'd go on tour in Germany and people would say, oh my God, we're so sorry for you. Like you didn't vote for this and you've been dragged out. Like I think when you're a folk singer that ends up sticking their flag to the mast on things, and you get to go and sing at rallies and give your free time to causes. I feel like I give my free time to a lot of things. But like, it's difficult because you think, wow, maybe I could do something more meaningful than music. But then you do a gig like tonight and you're like, this is meaningful.
Yeah.
So
you connected with a room full of people. I'm sure most of it had never heard you before.
Yeah, 100%.
And a lot of them bought the CDs and talked to you in length after the show.
Yeah, and a lot of them are now more knowledgeable about the situation that Scotland's in.
Right.
So
including myself.
Yeah, what's more important than that? Because mainstream media isn't going to do that. Mainstream media is not going to tell you about the fact the UK government wants to send people to Rwanda or like music is politics and politics is music. And I have so many horrible messages, mostly on Twitter or X, saying shut up and sing, shut up and sing. But when your music is your politics and your politics sometimes maybe is your music, they're intrinsically linked. And now I feel like I as a human I'm intrinsically linked in that too. So some people will come to me or gravitate towards me, some people will ward off me, but at least I know that I have integrity and I'm sticking up for what I believe in.
And not everybody's going to like you. Even if you didn't sing and talk about political issues, not everybody's going to like you. That's just a fact.
No.
So you have seemingly thick skin. You've handled it well from what I can tell, from what I'm reading online and reading about you. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like you're like, you know what? I don't care. I'm going to do what I do.
Yeah, to an extent. I think there is an effort. There is a huge systematic approach to how these people troll individuals like myself, and that they have energy. They're in their hundreds.
They're mean.
And I'm just me.
Yeah.
So when they go in and they want to actually have debate and discussion and healthy discussion, that's cool. But when they're just commenting about your appearance or making horrible comments about you, that's where I just block and I move on, because they can't be at that point.
Right.
They have nothing else to say, so they go for your appearance. And that's not nice.
No. Well, so then in school, did you study politics and music separately, or did you just pick up politics as kind of like something you're passionate about because you're passionate about it?
Yeah, so I didn't go to a normal university or college. I went to the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland. I auditioned when I was 16 and I got in, but I had to wait until I was 17 to go. I only did traditional music, never studied politics. Maybe in another life, I would have, when I was 15, 16, this is when you decided, like, do I go and I study this, I try to get into this conservatoire, or, 16 was when our independence referendum was, and that was the first time I voted, and I was really engaged, and I thought maybe I could study international relations or current affairs or be a correspondent or something. I don't think I'd be a very good correspondent because I'm very biased towards my side. So there was a crossroads at age 15, 16 where it was like, okay, do I study this or do I go and study music? And I'm very glad I did music because I'm sure I'd regret it. You regret things either way, don't you?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have taken a path to radio much sooner than I did. I tried to.
Well, I'm glad you did.
20 years later, I finally started doing actual radio.
Yeah, but I'm glad that you're here. And
this isn't radio, but this is the extension of losing my radio job in the pandemic and doing something that fills the hole of what I got to do there that I love. But yes, there are paths you can go on. And I mean, there's still potentially for you could follow the other path later.
There's no wrong path.
Right.
And just a few days ago, the kids in Scotland got their exam results soon, and there's a huge campaign saying there is no wrong path. Like, that is it. Like, you do what you want to do. And I'm sure maybe some point down the line when I'm exhausted of touring and I'm tired and I have the knowledge, experience and, age and life experience behind me, that maybe I can run in Scotland. So
at the end of my questions, you've jumped to that one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. No, that's good.
We've buried the lead.
We'll circle back to it probably, but it seems that it's meant to be a compliment. You're very passionate about your subject, the politics subject, and you're very knowledgeable about it. Like, you speak with such authority. I feel like you could be, speaking on TV about, and I think you have done some of that, but speaking about what your beliefs are and the facts, and not just what your beliefs are, but you're telling us stories in your concerts that are very educational. I mean, you could be a teacher too. There's a lot of things you could be.
I get to teach songs sometimes, so I do workshops.
Yeah.
And just a few days ago in Chicago, I was teaching at the old school folk music place. It was great. It was like a hour and a half long workshop on Scots language, and we all sung together. We learned some songs. So I love teaching. I love that kind of stuff. But I have a portfolio career that I can do all of that stuff. And sometimes I write for a newspaper called The National. And the topics can be on anything. It could be on, cultural events like, the new Barbie film or the death of, Sinead O'Connor. Or it could be about corruption in the Conservative Party, Boris Johnson's demise, downfall in politics, like really about anything. And I think if I rushed into trying to be elected, I would actually lose the ability to do most of the things that I do, in terms of having one job and only one job. So I'm going to stay doing all these things. This is what I'm going to do.
Do that.
That's what I'm going to do. But I'll sing a song called Scotland Yet, which ties in with all this. I might sing it unaccompanied because this song was written in 1998 by Davy Steele. It was released at the time when Scotland got its own parliament. So it's very fitting to what we've been talking about. And in 2014, I think a lot of people used this as like an independent song. And I guess now, after all of the debacle and we didn't get the independence vote, we didn't win 45 to 55, but there was a lot of lying in terms of Brexit, pensions, oil. We didn't get it. And we're not allowed another vote, the Supreme Court has told us. So this song is now about keeping our devolution, keeping our legislative powers, keeping our self-determination as much as we can. So, yeah. Cyn nu thach o et we he in this land o the leal, the healing glen, the Doric stream, the fertile Allen field. They seem to offer different views when looked at fae within. Can strangers be the only eyes to see it all seeing? The choice will be upon us soon
to set her destiny, and I'll drink a toast to Scotland yet, whatever yet may be. Our mother tongue spak different wise, fae past to present ties, each separate and yet entwined. It's where our real strength lies. But should a strand untwine itself, the others to forsake, then all would be forever lost, for all the strands would break. The choice'll be upon us soon, to set our destiny, and I'll drink a toast to Scotland yet, whatever yet may be. While we still seek to blame our woes and pains on someone else, we'll never have the strength to solve our problems for ourselves. In truth, we fucked each other mere, learn this for our past, and then together we can choose for ourselves at last. The choice'll be upon us soon, to set our destiny, and I'll drink a toast to Scotland yet, whatever yet may be. The choice'll be upon us soon, to set our destiny, and I'll drink a toast to Scotland yet, whatever yet may be.
Wow. It was as beautiful as when you did it with the room full of people and solo in front of me. This is a memorable experience for me. So thank you. My guest today on Acoustic Alternatives is Iona Fyfe. And normally you would find me in Grove Studios. Grove Studios is a place in Ypsilanti that I talk about. And I'm going to mention them real quick because they kind of are indirectly a sponsor of the show. They've been hosting me since I began doing this in 2020. And it was their encouragement that said, hey, we miss you on the radio. Will you please do a podcast in our studio so that we can hear what you do? We miss that. So without Grove and what they offer, if you come back to Michigan and you bring a band and you need a place to practice, that's where you go.
Awesome.
You can rent space 24/7 there with a keypad, and you go in and you pick a room and in advance, and it's really affordable. Yeah. It's a great place. I do the podcast there. DJs practice there. You can crank it up, not bothering your neighbors. It's a great spot. So look up Grove Studios. And if you want to support me, personally, I have a Patreon page. I know you do as well. So if you go to johnbomarito.com, look for Acoustic Alternatives. At the bottom of that page, there's a link to my Patreon page. And we could mention yours too. How do they find your Patreon page?
Just Iona Fyfe. Yeah.
At Patreon?
Yeah, or patreon.com/Iona Fyfe.
There you go. Yeah. It's a great way to support people who are trying to do their thing.
Totally. Wow, it's really helped during the pandemic. And like a lot of the time I'll put that back into creating new content or being able to like breathe and take a step and be like, okay, today I arrange a song. Yeah. Yeah, without worrying about, things. Right.
For me, it's like if I have my next guests after you are a duo from Nashville, and it's going to require a little bit more video than I can do with what I have. And so I'm going to hire somebody.
Awesome.
And I also,
creating opportunities for other people, which is awesome.
Yeah. Cool. I want to support the music scene that I love by shining the spotlight on it the best I can, letting people hear things maybe they haven't heard before. That's the whole point of doing this for me. So thank you for being a guinea pig with me and having me experiment in a home with. I have no idea if it's going to turn out or not.
I'm sure it'll be fine. You might hear some like people drinking in the background.
Maybe.
I'm having a gin too.
It's okay.
It's fine.
Do you want to sip before we continue? Yeah. Go for it. I'm going to mention some of my favorite artists from Scotland because when I think of Scottish music, I don't think of what you're doing. Okay. I think of my favorites, which are the Proclaimers, Snow Patrol, Delamitri, Texas, Aztec Camera, Paolo Nutini. Lewis Capaldi has my album of the year so far.
Paolo Nutini, I love him.
Yeah, Simple Minds, Travis, Love and Money, Shirley Manson of Garbage, Mark Knopfler of Dire Straits, Midger of Ultravox, and one we have in common.
Wait, you have Mark Knopfler and Dire Straits in there?
He said
Mark Knopfler is definitely not Scottish.
It says on Wikipedia that he is.
Really?
Are they lying to me?
I went to see Mark Knopfler because loads of folk musicians play with him.
Yeah.
So John McCusker, a fiddler, plays with him. Michael McGoldrick, an Irish like flute player, whistle player, also plays with him, and he did the Local Hero soundtrack. Local Hero is in Pennin, Aberdeenshire, so he's a bit of a legend. But I don't know if he's
We
not
should
from,
look that
is he
up
not
again.
from the northeast of England.
Well, then Wikipedia.
Either way, that's a
logged it.
really good list. But this is like kind of indie pop, kind of, yeah. But I love Luis Capaldi and Paolo Nutini. Oh my goodness! Like I treated my mum to Paolo Nutini tickets last Christmas, and we saw him in Glasgow.
He doesn't come here
And the
anymore.
show was great. The show was awesome. And like the song Acid Eyes is one of my favourite. I actually translated Rewind into Scots.
Ooh,
But
very nice.
yeah, I
I
love
had an
him.
experience with him that
And Luis
was.
Capaldi.
What's that?
I love Luis Capaldi.
Oh, Lewis.
too.
That album, both of his albums are great. That new album is my album of the year, I think, so far.
Yeah.
Paolo, when I was still working in radio, we used to do you remember? Actually, maybe you don't. In the U.S., we had a chain of stores called Borders Books and Music.
Oh yeah, loads of people keep talking about it. I'm like, what? So like people would go and sell CDs there and do
Yes.
gigs in the okay.
Yeah, so the radio station I worked for had a series called Live at Borders 01. It was the main flagship store in Ann Arbor. And we would have artists that came through with a new album. We'd interview them on the air, whatever. So that particular day, the morning host who normally did the interview said, hey, I'm not going to be there. You're going to get to do Paolo Nutini. Cool. Fortunately, I got to do Paolo. Unfortunately, Paolo was stopped from Toronto into Detroit by the border crossing and was kept awake for way too long. So he was a little grumpy.
Oh wow.
And it was live on the air in front of 400 people. And the answers are very short and like unfriendly. And his record label rep apologized to me afterwards.
Oh blah.
The next time I saw him, he did a very similar thing, but not in a bookstore. He did a session for Acoustic Cafe, which is a nationally syndicated radio program that I'm a big fan of, in this small space. And my station also was carrying that. And he was totally different.
Yeah.
And he did a full set as opposed to the 3 or 4 songs.
Yeah.
Everybody, it was amazing.
It's just like musicians are humans.
Wrong
And,
place,
like,
wrong time.
Yeah, totally. And I think the scary thing is that you have to be on 100% all the time because you don't want situations like that. Like, I think maybe this is the politician in me that's like, it's tricky because people will talk and, you know, things will happen and people's first experience of you is like the thing that they remember. And like you told me this anecdote years after because it's a memorable anecdote and I never want to ever have someone ever be like, oh, she was a nightmare, she was hot, she was moody. But like I have fibromyalgia, which is a chronic pain, chronic fatigue condition, and I sometimes think that like touring exacerbates it and makes it much, much worse, which is why I think having one place I go to work would be great. Turns out actually being a politician is not that either, because you have a constituency and you also have you have to go into well, not Congress but Holyrood. But yeah, it's like bad day, bad time. Sometimes everyone is up for the crack. Like you and I discussed doing this tomorrow morning, and I was like, "There's absolutely no chance I'll be awake for that."
I'm glad that you're.
And we did it tonight.
I'm glad that we're not passing over the opportunity to
I
talk.
know,
I'm really enjoying
same.
my
I'm
conversation
delighted.
with you.
Same.
One of the artists I didn't mention was one that is on your list of favorites is Edie Reader as well.
Oh yeah, she is so sweet.
I think I prefer solo stuff to Fairground Attraction, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, she is also the kindest to me on social media. We know each other in real life, and we met properly for the first time at a dear friend of ours' funeral, Rab Noakes, who is a legend. He also performed with Jerry Rafferty and on his own right, with Barbara Dixon, who was in Chess with Elaine Page. Like he's a legend, and he passed away, and his funeral brought people from the music community together, and myself and Eddie had been speaking on Twitter for years and years. She's very much, her and I, our politics align, and when there's been some horrible stuff happening, she's always been sticking up for me and been lovely. And yeah, when I had knee surgery, she mailed me saying, please come round for a cup of tea in Glasgow. And she's great. She's very sweet, and just very supportive of the younger generation of singers coming through. Like, I'm not poppy at all, but her Burns album is awesome. Love it. Yeah. She's sweet.
Good stuff. The Proclaimers probably sing with the largest accent of the bands that I mentioned. And, even their song Throw the R Away is kind of joking about
Yeah.
in a way. You seem to be on a mission, which I admire, to keep your native language alive, which I really admire. Where did that come from? Where did that passion come from? Your parents?
Yeah, so I guess I'm speaking to you in Scottish Standard English. So I'm
Yes.
speaking to you with like proper English accent, not English accent, but like I'm giving you my pronunciation, my T's and my whatever.
Yeah.
The way that my mother and father would speak to me at home would be in full Doric dialect of the Scots language. So like our household language would be Scots, and then everywhere else would be English. Well, not everywhere else. Like in the playground at school or the squeal, kids would speak in Doric or in Scots. And then inside the classroom, you'd see all of these like kind of farmer chiels and like kids code switch to English because we were conditioned to think you have to speak English in a formal setting. And yeah, when my mum and dad were at the school, and if they accidentally spoke Doric in the school, they would be belted, like physically, the belt?
Yeah.
They'd get that. And in Wales, if you were a Welsh speaker and you accidentally spoke Welsh in school, you would be forced to wear the Welsh cross, which is kind of like a wooden thing around you all day. So yeah, there was a time in the UK where regional dialects, regional accents, or full-bore languages were oppressed so much that they didn't want it in the education system at all because the UK government believed that it would create people that couldn't get jobs or anything. But I was told, if you speak like that, you're not going to get a job, you're not going to succeed, you're not going to get uni, like you're not going to, you're better just to anglify and to seem, understandable. But like nowadays, we're seeing Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone in the Scots, Paddington Bear, Diary of a Wimpy Wayne, all these books translated into the Scots language for young kids to be able to identify with their sense of cultural identity and be able to use their language and read stuff in their own language. Animal Farm, the George Orwell, is now Animal Farm.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I love that. But when I was growing up, it was just like ballads and burns. That was the only thing you could access in Scots. And now, the Scots Words of the Day, ran by Len Penny, a good friend of mine on TikTok, means that people can access Scots everywhere. I mean, this is not the Outlander effect. We've had Outlander since 2014, but 1.5 million people said that they spoke Scots in 2011. And it's still not recognised as a legal language. However, Spotify did add it to its back end of categories in 2021 after this campaign. And a lot of our politicians, I sit on a cross-party group on the Scots language ran by Holyrood. So lots of politicians and then stakeholders in the language, Scots Language Centre or whatever. So it is on the political agenda. We had a public consult. So in America, I guess you guys call it public comment. So we had a public consultation in November of last year. We're going to get the results of that. And there's hopefully going to be new legislation put out very soon called the New Scottish Languages Bill, which would encapsulate a Scots Language Act to say that Scots is a legal language and should be protected as a protected characteristic, and an update to the existing Gaelic Language Act, which was created in 2005 by the Labour Lib Dem government. So an issue that languages sometimes face is that they are discounted as nationalist agenda. But that is certainly not the case. I know people of all political backgrounds, class backgrounds, that speak Scots or speak Welsh or speak Gaelic or Gaelic. It should not be politicised. Sometimes in Northern Ireland, we've seen Ulster Scots and Irish Gaelic be politicised. But in Scotland, we don't want that. We need the languages to be on equal footing, but fairly and on the right terms. And that is not by division.
That's good stuff. That's good information. I did not know. More stuff you're teaching me.
Someone, I just said that tonight I wanted the people at the gigs to go away more richer in knowledge about Scotland and our traditions than they did when they came in. And, I usually play with a band and I hate playing piano. It's not my thing. I usually just sing. And really, it's not about musical virtuoso. It's not really about that. It's just about explaining what's going on and the traditions and the songs and the language, and that is by song, I guess.
Well, I enjoyed your story about trying to get kids to teach or to learn it as well. And before you sang what you sang, I'd already noticed that it seems that your most recent actual release was a combo English Gaelic, not Gaelic, sorry.
English Scots?
Scots version of Taylor Swift's 10-minute epic song.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Yes.
how do you do that, first of all? And could you, like, do you know it in your head, or do you have to read it? Do you think it?
Oh, okay. So Taylor Swift All Too Well 10-minute version came out in 2022. It was the first song to knock American Pie off the Billboard chart as the longest song. It was originally released on the Red album, but as we all know, she's re-releasing her songs in order to get around copyright issues and horrible stuff that happened to her. When All Too Well 10-minute version came out, I was like, this is amazing, but it also works in Scots. So I did have to read it. I couldn't remember it all.
I can't imagine that she can remember that whole song.
She can somehow. She remembers 44 songs. She does 44 songs per night on her tour. That's crazy. I'm going to see her 3 times in Edinburgh next year. And I got loads of hate for posting that publicly, but you were allowed to buy 4 tickets. So I bought 3, you know. But this is in the UK, so it's not thousands of dollars per night. It's like $100.
I know people from here that are buying tickets to see her in France because the flight, hotel, and tickets are cheaper than buying them.
Yeah, so there's much more public consumer laws. But yeah, she put out All Too Well 10-minute version, and it took me like 3 months of dabbling to get it translated. And then on the 12th of December, the day before her birthday, I finally recorded it because I'm a Swiftie, massive Swiftie. And yeah, I mean, it was only put on Bandcamp, but like no one really noticed, which is fine.
I stumbled into it today and I thought it was brilliant.
But we have a full version of Love Story, like a band version, but I really want to get pure clearance on that because that'll go on iTunes and all the other places. So
permission would be nice.
Permission, clearance, making sure that I'm not taking her words out of context. But no one's came after me thus far. But also, I think like she seems like a really decent human.
Yeah.
And her first ever appearance on UK television, she was like 16 or 17. She went on wearing a beautiful tartan dress and talking about how she had Scottish ancestry. But I think she didn't realise that this was a UK-wide telecast that was going to like all of the nations and not just Scotland. But it was like, at that point, I was like, I love her. I love her so much. Yeah. But she's been with me for 17 years.
That's a long time.
Yes. Anyway, more enough Taylor chat.
No, I just think it's ambitious that you're taking on like trying to keep a language alive that is not dead, but people seem to be trying to squash it. And you're like, no, I'm gonna perform in that language actually to keep it going.
I mean, my degree was in that language.
Well,
like
kudos.
You know, you can go to conservatoire and learn Scots song, or you can actually in Aberdeen, you can have your MRI scan of like your knee or your like a CAT scan, and you can have them talk to you in Doric in your headphones.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's awesome.
Well, I've had guests. I've done about 60 or so of the podcast version of my interviews. Most of the guests are my local musicians from the Michigan music scene, which are fantastic.
Awesome.
I've had a few, bigger names like the lead singer of Toad the Wet Sprocket, Glenn Phillips. You probably don't remember the Verve Pipe. They were an American hit band in the
Verve?
Verve Pipe.
The Verve Pipe.
Different band.
Okay,
The Freshman was their hit in the 90s. The lead singer of that band.
I would be minus years old then, but I'm going to Google them. Jonathan
Brooke, Willie Porter, some of like the local, the national singer-songwriters have been guests. But you're international. You've played all over the world. What brought you to America? Because I don't know. I mean, what causes somebody to come this far over without knowing how well you're going to do? Playing a house is cool, but wouldn't you be rather playing to 400 people in a listening room?
The thing is that it really, really it's so variable. Like last year we did a West Coast tour and I could employ musicians here. So I had a trio and we were doing theatres and some house concerts and a lot of teaching and like loads of West Coast venues. And, just, the industry is a nightmare right now. Like we're just on its knees, and that's everywhere. That's not just in the US, that's in the UK and Europe. Like there is different areas in Europe have different arts funding and all that kind of stuff. And I know that some arts funding in States just doesn't exist. So like venues are not, supported like they should be. And like there's a thing in the UK called the Music Venues Trust, and it's people are trying to get back on their feet after the pandemic. Also, musicians in the UK are trying to get back on their feet after Brexit and like the red tape of being able to tour in Europe. So you'll find that now each European member state wants UK musicians to have their work permits and their carnets and their visas and their EORI numbers. Whereas if you have a work permit, a P3, visa for the States, you can do 50 states. So this is the last few weeks of my visa. Then I'll go home and then I'll apply again. I love coming here. There's so many people with ancestry or stories about how they love Scotland or Irish folk music, and it's almost like an inbuilt audience of lovely, lovely salt of the earth, amazing people. And like tonight was a house concert, but like we don't really have those in the UK. The idea of like someone opening their home to strangers and musicians and some friends and family and all that kind of stuff, and putting on a spread and having drinks and just having an artist and putting the artist up between shows, and like that, the industry wouldn't be viable if it wasn't for people like Stan and Barb to do this. But yeah, I think North America, I've been to Canada before for a show in Fergus in Ontario for the Tartan Day in 2018, and I'd love to get back there, but I think I've always thought, oh my goodness, like US. Like,
how are they finding you here? Like, what have you had, like radio success here? Have you?
I don't.
How do you get people to come to the shows? I'm not saying you're not good enough for it. I'm just saying I don't understand what would make you go, I'm going to go hundreds of miles, thousands of miles from my home and hope that people show up.
Yeah.
There has to be something that makes you think you're going to sell tickets.
I guess in Australia this year I was doing like the Festival of Small Halls tour, which was really interesting. So they take a musician based in Australia and then an international musician, and they pair them up and they promote rural concerts in rural areas, which is an awesome thing to do. And in Germany I feel like they have really good arts funding, really good state funding, so you don't really need to worry about how many people will turn up or anything. I'm going to be honest, I've performed more in Germany and more in the US in the last year or so than I have in Scotland.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's just been my focus.
Okay.
I guess like I need to do more on social media, 100%. I need to get everything updated and do all that kind of stuff. But for me, this tour, I had to come out solo because I couldn't guarantee the fees for a trio. So that is the uncertainty that musicians are facing right now. Yeah. So I'm glad that I could do this with my piano. This Nord that I have in front of me, I took this on as hand luggage. Like that was,
gutsy.
It's been, and I've hired a car, and like I haven't done this much driving alone because you just don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who's going to come. You don't know if it's going to be small or big or, So we rely on CD sales and we rely on, Patreon, and it's just such a precarious time for the arts in every country. But I feel like Germany's pretty good right now. So I'm looking forward to going back there for one day in September. I feel like I'm always either in Germany or in the US. I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way.
I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you found us.
You.
If you need a musician, next time you come back, I have a guy that does all of the things you wanted tonight.
Amazing.
And I will recommend him, and I'll tell you more about him when we're done. But Brad Phillips is his name.
Okay.
He's a great guy. Obviously, from seeing you tonight, listening to your records, you're musically gifted. You're strongly political. I admire that you aren't afraid to stand up for what you believe in and air it out in public, because a lot of people would be like, you got shut up and play music or whatever that people said to you. Like you could just say, okay, yeah, right. You could say, okay, sorry, but you don't. You stand up, and I admire that about you. You mentioned you're having been trolled on social media, and I've still seen you stand tall and just. I mean, whether you're hurting inside about it or whether you're taking it personal or not, I don't know, because I don't know you that well. Yeah. But to me, your responses are very like, look, this is what I believe in. Too bad. There's no reason that we can't have opposite opinions.
Yeah, I think the world has got such plurality. Yes. There's a lot of polar opposites. Like I could post on Twitter being like, I love fizzy juice, and someone would be like, no, straight orange juice is better. Like there would like I could cause controversy no matter, like if I just posted saying I'm breathing today, have a great time, someone would say something. Like at this point someone's not going to be happy no matter what. Like I got pulled up the other day, someone said, oh, what about your carbon footprint, Iona? Like what are you doing to solve this? And I was like, good question. I don't know what I'm doing. So people are holding me to account. Yes, I'm totally happy with that because it makes me be a better person and do better. But when it's just nasty stuff, you just have to look over it. Like, nah.
Let it go.
Yes.
I meant to bring this up when we were talking about the Scottish language. I had my phone earlier, and it's recording the video right now, so I can't do it again. But I said, "Hey Siri, what does Iona mean in English?"
Okay.
And it's to translate Iona from Scottish to English, and it says, "I can't do that right now. Or I can't do that yet." I think it said "yet."
Yet.
I'm
okay.
like, "Ooh, yet, interesting."
Yeah. Years ago, there was like a study done, and it was like you had to record yourself saying different words for Google voice recognition, and they needed Aberdeenshire accents. I was like, okay, cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was cool.
Is there a translation of Iona into like a English name?
Well, from Gaelic to English, there will be. If you go in Iona Wikipedia, not my Wikipedia, but like the island Wikipedia, there should be something. It means something.
Is it your birth name or is it a stage name?
Birth name. All of this is birth name.
What is does it translate to English? Anything that
I don't even know. I can't even remember. If we had a phone right now, we could do it.
You have a phone. Mine's busy.
Hold on. This is the warbling of someone tonight said, "Have you heard of Ramblin' Jack Elliott?" I was like, "Yes." He was like, he was just called Ramblin' Jack Elliott because he rambled a lot. So I'm going to call you Ramblin' Iona Fyfe. So yeah, Iona in Gaelic, sometimes simply in Scots, Iona. It means something. There's a Norse name to it as well. There you go. Have a little look. Founded by Saint Columba, the island. It's beautiful.
Very good.
But it does mean something, I think. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
No problem.
So as a live performer, what has been your greatest thrill?
I think just like people singing with you. Yeah, like people, like a folk club.
Okay.
So not like theatre venues. No, like I've done Lorient Celtic Festival. Huge, like stages, huge, like the Palais de Congrès in Lorient. Massive Celtic festivals. And like, I love that. That's great. Love being on a stage. Love, like, I do costume changes as well. Love that. But like singing here tonight was like a folk club vibe where like everyone is singing the chorus and they're getting the crack. That's just lovely. So much love for that.
Is there another record coming? I've got 3 in my hands. You mentioned a digital only collection that you sell at your shows. Are you planning another collection of songs that are cohesive as a physical release, something that people can hold in their hands?
100%. So the second full album is going to be an album of songs from the James Madison Carpenter collection. He was a Mississippi-born folklorist who went to the northeast of Scotland and collected some awesome ballads. So that's album 2. There might be some Scots language Christmas stuff coming out this year. There might be, who knows, to be honest. I have no clue. There's so many songs, not enough time. I haven't been home in 2 months.
You say you're too busy touring, probably.
So I'd like to just breathe a little bit.
Well, the sad truth about being a musician is that a lot of musician careers have an arc. You have a time where you're popular, and then you kind of do this, and maybe you do this again. But we talked briefly earlier about have you considered, okay, I'm 40 and people aren't really coming to my shows anymore. I still love music, but maybe I'll run for office now.
Yeah.
Is that a thing you really considered at this point?
I mean, folk music is a thing that, you can be classed as a young folk singer for a long time.
Yes.
Like, I absolutely adore Eliza Carthy. Love her. And she is still classed as a young folk singer, and her and I are about 20 years apart. So I still have some youth in me.
Absolutely. I didn't say you didn't.
No, it's fine. But yeah, sometimes I think when like you're exhausted and you probably spent more on the hotel than you did make at that gig, you're like, wow, I'm tired. But also I have so much fire in me about other things. And there has been like some people have asked, are you going to run? Like, the deadline is this time to be selected. And I'm like, nah, no. I'm 25. I've been involved in trade union stuff for many years. A few years ago, I got given the Scottish Trade Union Congress Equality Award for campaigning around sexual harassment in the Scottish folk music industry, which is a huge thing, by the way, unfortunately. So there's so much more to be done that I can probably do as a musician more so than an elected representative. More lobbying to be done, more things that I can get done, really. I would love to run for office and, one day maybe be Culture Secretary of Scotland. This would be in Edinburgh at Holyrood, and I would be a member of the Scottish Parliament. I would love that. That would be a dream come true. Whether my life plan will allow for that, I don't know. But I just know I'm going to keep campaigning on things that I'm really passionate about.
You're good at a lot of things, I can tell. You're very, like I said, very passionate, very knowledgeable about the subjects you talk about, and you have that beautiful voice, which I would love to hear sing one more song.
Thank you. What will I sing?
Something from the forthcoming album that isn't done? You don't have to. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah. This is the one. It's called The Waters Meet. And I'm not going to say more about that.
Sitting down and thinking long, I'll drink my coffee and cross my mind, feeling sad as I walk these streets. But you'll meet me where the waters meet, meet me where the big wheels stood, where we drank our childhood. Never need to be discreet. When you meet me where the waters meet, meet me by the Devon side, where you thought that I'd forever bide. You'll find a white feel complete. When you meet me where the waters meet. And it's hard to feel I'm welcome back again, for no I did was rin and rin and rin. Oh, I feed the karma, the haired back, the drama. Say, take a seat and count on me. Do you think on you where I'll be? We'll sit here till we lose our heat. When you meet me where the waters meet, and when it's time to part again, I'll kiss you like you kissed me then. Forgive me as I leave these streets, but we'll meet in Smear where the waters meet.
That is lovely.
Thank you.
My guest on Acoustic Alternatives, once again, Iona Fyfe, her latest release from a few years ago, Away From My Window. The latest release. The camera's over here.
Oh, yeah. The latest release. It's actually Dark Turn of Mind. Yeah, I know. But this is the only album. But Dark Turn of Mind was recorded very soon after Away From My Window was released. But it's the only thing in English. So, yeah. Ironically, it was funny because loads of radio stations would play stuff from Dark Turn of Mind 6 months after they shunned a lot of the Scots stuff in Away From My Window. So
isn't that fun?
It's very sad that like you put stuff. So at that point I was like, well, if they're going to play this stuff in English, so like Away From My Window is a mix of English and Scots, Dark Turn of Mind, a mix of English, and I feel like Away From My Window, there's stuff that got radio play was the stuff in English. Then this EP got played loads. Now I only release stuff in Scots, so they have no option. They can pick the English tracks or the Scots tracks.
There you go.
So yeah, and it's worked on a few of the stations that I noticed had shunned some of the tracks have now played the Scots stuff. So I'm like, yes, good.
Whatever you want to play, just play it.
Happy, yeah.
Final question: what is the song that you've written that you're the most proud of?
Probably the Kenmure Street protest one, because it really says something. So you can find that on my YouTube. It's not on Bandcamp, it's not on anywhere. I haven't released it. It's just called Kenmure, and it's a rewrite of Woody Guthrie's Deportees.
I enjoyed that one tonight a lot, actually.
Very passionate about the message behind that.
When's it coming out? Can it come out? Because do you have to get Woody Guthrie's family's permission? Maybe.
I mean, that's probably easier than getting Nick Cave or Taylor Swift, because I've also translated their works. Right. But yeah, it's already out. It's already out there.
Well, the video.
Yeah, the video.
You can actually purchase and own.
Yeah. But the point of the song is not to make money off it. The point of the song was to get that message out there, and it was released this year on World Refugee Week. And I wish I monetized it to give to like a Glasgow refugee charity called Refugee. That was a thought, but I just didn't have the time. But if people, listen to it and hear the message behind it, then that's enough. I never wanted to make money out of that song at all. So probably not going to come out on a track. Okay. Yeah. Okay. If it's already out there. Yeah. Your listeners must think, oh my God, she's a nightmare.
No. Just because I'm a music fan that likes to actually own what I listen to.
I know.
I understand the digital world is the current world, but I don't prefer it.
Yeah.
I came up working in a record store, and that's the first job out of
And I still buy records. Like as soon as Taylor Swift has a new record out, like I buy it and I frame it and I put it on my wall. I don't even own a record label, like a record player. Yeah, it's madness. I will buy a record player at some point because then I can play the records I have. But my mum is full records.
You're on the road too much.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. You don't need a record player until you're...
But I love CDs and I love liner notes, and I always make liner notes. So there is liner notes to the other tracks.
Right.
They're on my Bandcamp.
That is the disadvantage of the digital world, is I don't really know.
I agree.
Flip it over and go, oh, who played on this? Oh, who wrote that one? You don't do that in the...
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you.
Thank you for agreeing with me, and thank you for spending time with me and making it happen like in the strangest way. Like, do you want to do it after your show? Sure.
Yeah.
I've just never done this
Loads
before.
of energy now.
You were
Tomorrow morning, you would be like dragging me out of bed, being like, come on, Iona, let's... And I'd be like, sorry, what? I need 8 cups of coffee before I do anything. It's literally me. Yeah.
Website, simple.
www.ionafyfe.com. There you go.
If they want to find out more about you, they can do that. If they want to see you live in concert in America, sign up for your mailing list so they know when you're coming. Mm-hmm. This podcast is actually heard outside of America. I look and see where it gets listened to, and sometimes people in India are listening, and other
love
countries
it.
Like, so hey, cool.
Best of luck and keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks. It is a passion. It isn't about making money either. I don't mind if I can cover the expenses that I have, and I get to hang out with people like you. So, pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you too.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. Again, if this is your first time, there's there's many more to explore. Maybe you're not familiar with the names, but if you listen to their first song, and I usually try and stick the first song within the first 5 minutes to keep your attention, you might find an artist from Michigan you've never heard and go, wow, how come I've never heard of this person? And I've got so much more to do. So
love it.
Looking forward to doing more. And thanks again to Grove Studios for nudging me to do this 3 years ago.
Whoop. Thank you. Night.